Hello, Vaush. What up? Thank you for the follow. I'm glad that you are enjoying my content. Also, do you want to talk about gender sometime? I asked you in DMs and you didn't respond yet. Maybe you have. I've been streaming for a while. Also, I've had a very bad day and I'm a little bit tipsy. But if you wanted to come in and just like chat for a while, yo, let's do it! I am down, my man. What up? Give me a call whenever you're ready. Who needs their Vaush 8? Chat, don't be weird. We're having cool people in stream right now. I said, oh no, I said who need their Vaush 8? You summoned him. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been headachy all day. I'm testing this conversation as a metric for whether or not I'll be able to stream tomorrow.
Oh damn. Are you okay? Why you got a headache?
I occasionally get headaches that last a few days, but since exercising and dieting, this is actually the first one that I've gotten. So I'm getting them about a quarter as often as I used to. Altogether, it's pretty encouraging.
Yo, that's awesome. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Goddamn right. How are you doing?
You know what? I had planned to like clean out my living space. As cringe as it is, Jordan Peterson actually has a point there. Cleaning out your living space actually does lead to just kind of like having a little bit more of a sense of control over your immediate vicinity, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Routine and order are incredibly important to make people feel good about their living space. Unfortunately, stuff like that and talking points about, like, say, discipline have been really, really politicized, so they all sound like super conservative these days, you know?
Yeah, like I don't know. I wish I could talk about that on my stream without sounding like a chud. But I love talking about like yoga. I used to do like workout streams and stuff. And frankly, it's a lot easier to do yoga if you have space to do it in, which is made easier if you actually, clean up your space.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Like with work ethic too, you know? Do I think people should have to work 40 hours a week to survive? No, of course not. But I do think people should be able to work that, or even more than that, and have a good attitude about it, or as good of an attitude as you can have. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive necessarily, making the best of whatever situation you find yourself in.
True, I agree.
You know what I mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Like of course there are limits for like everybody. Like if you are like having like a dog shit day, like yeah, obviously it might be really, really hard for you to clean up your space, but like if you can manage it, if you can do that, it can enable you to do a lot of really other helpful things that like kind of stack and build on top of each other.
Yeah, for sure. It's about strength of character, really, and about discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline is freedom. It's the most true thing Jocko Willink ever said. Because the more disciplined you are, the more easily you're able to take care of that which you have to do. And the faster you get that done, the more time you have to do the things you want to do. When I'm feeling my most productive, I get all my emails and everything, all that crap, out of the way right at the beginning of the day, and then I have the rest of the day to do anything that I want. It's through inactivity that I trap myself with mounting obligations.
See, for me, it's the opposite. I need to do some of my stuff at the beginning of the day. Otherwise, I tend to just keep putting it off, Like, I need to, when I get up, I need to, like, do my workout. Otherwise, I'm just not gonna do it, And whatever routine works for you, that's the best routine for you,
Yeah. The only thing that bothers me with the left is, I feel like there's a really big difference between how do I put this? God, it all comes off so reactionary. All the talking points have been co-opted. I think there's a
it really does. I feel
yeah.
Yeah.
We shouldn't encourage weakness in the sense of hypersensitivity to adversity. Like the ideal person, and I think this is universal. Like the ideal person should be able to overcome stuff. I'm not saying that if they can't, that makes them a bad person. It's just like an ideal to strive for. The more resilient you are, I mean, God, everyone could use that. So we
Yeah.
should make ourselves, yeah, like productive and stuff. But there's a big difference between those values and then like the conservative um, extrapolations, which is to say that you're less of a person if you can't do this or that. If for you the great strength is just getting up out of bed before noon, then God bless you.
Yeah,
You keep at it.
especially for like people who are neurodivergent, like people who are who struggle just to meet like the baseline minimum, like that can be really really hard. And I don't want to like judge people who are on that level, but like the more people we have who can like excel above the baseline, like the better, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be anything. It could be the taking a walk in a day when you're feeling sad, or showering when you haven't in a while. We should always encourage that, because there's a very narrow line between being accepting of people who don't do those things and being encouraging of the excuses people tell themselves to not do it. And that's when like the kindness can become enabling, and that it fall down that
Yeah.
circle a lot. I see that
Like
sometimes.
I mean, if you're gonna listen to like a 3 hour long podcast or a 3 hour long debate anyway, like you might as well like go out and walk around your local area, like walk in an area is relatively safe, and just like go and listen to that while you're doing another thing anyway. Like it's gonna like this I used to do this all the time before I transitioned, by the way. Like I would go out like at like 9 o'clock at night, and I would just like walk until I got tired, and then I would head back to where I was living. And like that is a wonderful thing that you can do, especially if you're like more masculine presenting, like people don't tend to hassle you as much. um
Oh yeah, no, that definitely makes a big difference when it comes to ease of access and just sort of casually gallivanting around.
oh
But the
yeah.
concept is good. Walks are nice. A lot of people forget this. That's why we say touch grass. A lot of people online. There's God, it reminds me of that meme about like anarchists on Twitter talking about how giving kids homework is an unjust hierarchy or something.
Hmm.
So I just worry sometimes about systemic critique devolving into like complacency. I don't think it's like the biggest problem in the universe or anything. I just see it sometimes.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, to me, it's just kind of like, if you're gonna be out there anyway, if you're gonna be like sitting at your computer doing like, uh, I don't know, like just watching a YouTube debate for like 3 hours, why not just like hop on a treadmill or like walk around your block, X amount of times while you're listening to it, like
Yeah,
there are
feels good.
ways you can fit in self-improvement with your routine that you already enjoy. um and it makes a really big difference. It might not feel like it when you start, but like over time it makes a huge difference. Small
Yeah,
steps towards greater improvement.
yeah. A big moment of pride for me is I had a lower back injury for a long time. I still do, I guess. Um, After a deadlifting injury, which I then exacerbated sometime
Oh
after.
shit.
And for the past 6 months, I've been getting physical therapy and exercising and losing weight, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's been good, but for the longest time, whenever I would forget to exercise for a few days, the back pain would come back. It was very much a temporary prop up. But I've been super lazy the past 10 days. I haven't exercised, and my back feels great. So apparently, the work has set in enough now to the point where I can afford to be lazy, which feels pretty good.
Yeah, I, I I I don't know exactly how to phrase this the perfect way, but like there's a lot of apparently people are asking for Keffels to be let in. I'm not friends with Keffels, guys. I don't know how to let Keffels in. I'm sorry. If I could, I would.
Kind of transphobe?
I guess I'm a transphobe for not having friendship with Keffels on Discord. I'm sorry,
Hmm.
chat. Um But I like that's kind of the thing. Let me look. Keffels, if you're here, here you go. Use my that's the thing. There we go. Add me as a friend.
It's all coming together.
It's all coming together. So yeah, it is one of those things where like I don't know. I'm older than you. And as you get older, like just these things add up, right? Like you need to just keep in shape, keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna be great. There we go. I got Keffels in here. Is that are you okay if I add Keffels?
I don't give a shit.
Okay, cool.
Talk with Nazis. I'm sure I can handle whatever rigors are to come.
You can handle whatever a Keffels is.
A Nazi, maybe.
All right. I don't think Keffels is a Nazi.
Yeah, well, they like to hide it, don't they? You know, it's always
true.
Not Nazi.
I'm a moderate conservative.
Paleocon, yeah.
All right.
I've fallen for these tricks before.
Yeah, I look. I've been cleverly hiding my power level just to get you on stream. That's been my entire plan.
Well, enjoy it while you have it. Lauren Southern got yeeted off Twitch for a little while today.
Oh,
so
that was glorious. That was really
dropping.
Glorious.
It's a temp ban for her. I think it was just because of her stream title. I don't think she said anything that would have triggered the... I don't actually know how lenient Twitch is with their hate speech policy. I mean, how much can you do the whole, I don't hate trans people, I just think they're mentally diseased thing?
Yo, that was her big misstep, wasn't it?
I don't know how much you can do that. I don't know what the limits are, you know?
Yeah, like her big thing was Oh, I guess I need you as a friend to add her, Keffels as a friend.
Sure. One moment.
Sorry. No
worries.
Don't mean to impose.
I'm playing video games. Add friend. There you go. Accept the thing.
Cool. There we go.
I'm so blindingly fucking close to getting all the achievements. The Binding of Isaac, the Dead God achievement. I am so excited.
Yo, I love Binding of Isaac. I only put like 100 hours into that game, and the idea that like I could ever have all of the achievements is insane to me. The fact that you're even within spitting distance is ridiculous. Okay. Chat, I added Keffels. You can stop being angry at me now. Oh, and they didn't join. All right. Well, this is awkward. Y'all Keffel in now. All right.
Don't wait on my account. I'm fine. Got one more unlock to do with Tainted Bethany.
But yeah,
Kitchen.
I thought you had a lot of really interesting ideas on the gender panel, so I'm glad you're calling in. I'm just sorry I'm not sober for it.
I talked about that more with my community, and they got a bit irritated with me. But there's only so much I can do with that. Pigeon. Hold on one second. Mate.
No worries. Keffel.
She turns. Look.
Wait, Keffels is pooping. Okay, well, good to know.
Pigeon. Hello, dipshit. Ooh. There we go. Very nice. Anyway, I thought about it some more, and I feel like, oh god, the whole gender stuff is so fucking complicated.
Yeah,
I feel like
it takes a lot of, frankly, it takes a lot of, I think, assumption of good faith to be able to have a conversation about gender.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, with how these tend to go down. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it can be a shit show.
for being, a little on the cautious side. I think that with oh man, I think with regards to the conversation, there are some like really big problems with left orthodoxy at the moment. Not problems like we're too progressive or yeah, we're too progressive or too pro-trans. Nothing like that. Those aren't the issues.
Yeah.
I just feel like we have an inconsistent definition of gender that maybe opens us up to a lot of really bad faith attacks. I thought about it with concerns to race too, right? So race is socially constructed, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So
I had a big conversation about this on stream the other day, and people got really mad. But like, yeah, no, race is 100% socially constructed. I would just argue that it's constructed differently than like gender is, right? Like different social constructs behave differently.
Yeah. And we have certain expectations with these things, even when they're socially constructed. Like even though being black is arbitrary and socially constructed, we know Obama's half white, half black, but everyone calls him black because, well, it has nothing to do with genes and everything to do with what we've expected to be true. But there are still expectations associated with utility and knowing the term. Colorblind liberal anti-racism isn't liked by people on the left for good reason. It just doesn't really seem to fix any problems.
Yeah.
So I thought about that for a while, and I wonder, like, if you could apply the same sort of ubiquitous grant to self-entry for racial standards as one does now for gender. If a person started constructing new racial subgroups to describe themselves because they felt it gave them better identity, and then got like angry when people didn't refer to them as such, are we adding utility to the world, or is this like a linguistic black hole that we're going to cause ourselves a lot of trouble trying to defend? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
Like I studied I studied English literature, so like part of my degree was based in linguistics, and like yeah, no, there is a kind of point at which language starts breaking down. And utility starts breaking down as well, right? Like and I think that the best way to go about this is by describing that, or at least very, very softly, I guess, for some people, because a lot of people need to be introduced to these ideas in a soft way, I guess. Introducing the idea that people need to, or at the very least, people have these ideas that that they've always assumed to be true, that aren't necessarily set in stone the way they thought they were, right? Like, race has nothing to do with skin color, right? Like, race has been conceived of in vastly different ways throughout space and time. And we need to understand that in order to understand how it's conceived of now. And the same way, we need to understand that gender has been conceived of in different ways in the past as opposed to now, right? Like, there are these massive gaps in how we think about these things that need to be addressed and kind of bridged in order for us to make sense of how things are now, right?
Yeah, oh, 100%. Sorry, there was a pause there because I also have your stream open, and the desync between audio and video led me to believe you were still going to continue speaking. Yeah,
no worries. Also, I've been drinking whiskey, so if I'm not 100% cogent, that's why.
Yeah, what's the occasion, by the way?
My dad and I had a conversation about gender, and yesterday he told me that I was a deviant who is hated by God. So, like today I'm just kind of like taking it easy, chill, I guess in the words of the sitcom show The Good Place, I'm taking it sleazy,
You know, in the debate world, what your father did would be considered a concession. So at
Oh,
least you can
oh yeah, no,
knock that one under your belt.
my dad actually opened the conversation by saying he didn't want to have a debate with me. So
Oof.
yeah, you know
Sounds like
that's my
beta
power
a little bit.
level. That's
Yeah,
my power level is just obvious to even my dad. So uh,
that's good. It's not good. I am obviously sorry about that. I'm very happy to have been raised by accepting parents. Of course, I'm cis, so I don't know how they would have treated me if I was trans, but they seem at least conceptually supportive of my trans friends, so
yeah,
I'll have to
do
assume
you,
they would.
is, and this might be me digging a little bit too far. Do your parents know that like you're pan?
Oh yeah, they know everything that I am and do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's no discord there. They're perfectly aware of and supportive, in spite of the ridiculous bullshit that I find myself up to on a daily basis. I'm
I mean,
quite happy about that.
frankly, that's cool as hell. I like your parents are awesome.
Oh, I'll let them know.
Yeah.
I think they I've told them that a few times because you know, doing this all the time I see in my chat, you know, terrible parent X, Y. I mean, you're talking about this in the way you are. Um, so, and I've told them about that. So I think they have, you know, a general vague understanding that they're held in high regard. Um, I'll be sure to let them know again.
Yeah, get him a good present for like Father's or Mother's Day or something.
Oh, I hate getting presents. I'll do my best.
I hate getting presents too. Last time I went to GameStop. I bought my the Nibblings, the like several different games, so I had their birthdays covered. Um, and for those who don't know, Nibblings is like the non-binary term for like nieces and nephews. And
I hate that term.
I think it's cute as fuck. All right, like I love using it, and I wish more people would use it.
Well, you can't deny it. It sounds at the very least goofy.
Oh no, it does indeed. It does absolutely. But then I just tell people it's been used since the 1950s, and people are like, "Oh, well, we did sock hops in the 1950s, so like that makes sense."
I
Like
just can't imagine some 1950s businessman ever belting out a term like that. But I don't know. They were all calling each other weird shit that would be homoerotic today too, right? Like
oh,
they were
absolutely.
like a stern dicking meant like a straight talking to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
like every single World War II film or World War One film is like the most homoerotic film you've ever seen.
That's great, dude. Brock.
Every single death scene is like, I've always loved you, and like it's like everything except for kissing, in those scenes, and I don't know, it
Just shy of it.
it just makes me, it just really reinforces to me that like dudes have always really wanted to kiss each other.
Yeah, well, they were all dressed up to the nines back then. You know.
Oh yeah.
Who do you think they were doing it for? The women? No, no, no. There were no women at the workplaces back then.
No, the women were all left alone back at the factory making like tank treads or whatever.
Yeah, getting cucked as their husbands made out with each other. You know how it was.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, they were hammering away like Rosie the Riveter, and maybe that translated into some workplace romance. Otherwise, their men were off at war, like romancing each other. It's not. Sorry, like if you guys thought that World War One and World War Two were super straight, I got some news for you. Okay. Read those books again.
We had to be gay. If we weren't, the Nazis would have won.
It's true. It's true. Like, honestly, that's what I bring up on my channel all the time. I talk about how, like, the Weimar Republic was, like, one of the gayest places to live on the planet. And the reason conservatives today think about how straight the past used to be is because of Nazi propaganda,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
What we, everything we lost. It's funny how quickly things backslide, huh? The Weimar Republic to Nazi Germany in pretty short length of time.
yeah, I mean,
That's not
honestly,
good.
that's one of the reasons I'm afraid for the United States. Like being so like the more accepting the United States gets, ironically, the more like scared I get for the future of the United States based on like my understanding of history. I really hope it doesn't provoke a backlash.
Hopefully not. I mean, the good news is nowadays we have international consumerism, whereas before we didn't really, you know? I feel like one of the biggest bulwarks, it's kind of like, you know, when people are climbing a trapeze and they have the net beneath them that sometimes raises to accommodate the heights they achieve? I feel like, in a way, modern consumerism does that. Because once, like, the broader corporate market decides a minority group is worth appealing to, it's really hard to undo that. The industries didn't really exist back in the Weimar Republic the way they do today. Of course, they were capitalist, but they didn't have anywhere near the level of like mass global marketing that we do today, not by a hundredth. So nowadays, I can't like it's difficult for me to imagine like the corporations effectively control like the spread of discourse through everything outside like politician speech and hard news delivery. And
Yeah.
as long as they're doing that and they're promoting at least shallow liberal progressivism, it'd be pretty tough to roll back against that, you know? I don't know how you could go fascist with a liberal, like Hollywood. When Coca-Cola is doing like pro LGBT ads, it feels like, if nothing else, we have a couple of years head warning
Well
before
then you
anything
try
bad
and get then you try and get Pepsi, right? Like I don't know. Like it's I agree with you. I'm just worried about the I don't know. I guess I'm worried about the potential backslide, right? Um I think that there is more potential for that than a lot of people give it credit for. And I that's what keeps me up at night, you know, like the idea that you know all these people exist and you know we need to respect them and market to them, and I just I fear the ability to backslide on these things that are
I
going
can't
to
fault you for that.
yeah.
I think it's worth worrying about. I just think that it'd probably be more of a segmented thing, you know what I mean? It seems like we haven't had much of a cultural backslide because year after year, acceptance of basically every minority group goes up. You know, in every measurable metric, it seems like
Mhm.
Americans' opinions are getting better. And maybe they don't like put those to the test at the voting booth, but it's something. It's not nothing. Um, and then you have like you have stuff like Trump, but I mean, what are Republicans? A third of this country, if that, and people maybe indifferent. But even like Trump had to pretend to be pro LGBT, you know?
I
Even
mean he
like
did, he did hold up that flag for like 10 seconds.
yeah, which to be fair means that there's something politically beneficial
Oh,
about
absolutely.
pretending to be pro LGBT even when you're very very far right, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it is interesting that for a lot of Republicans, it took like 4 years for him to like fall off of that pedestal. You know, like it took multiple years for him to be realized as like, well, he's not really LGBT friendly. You know, he just held up a flag once, and it's just I worry that I worry about the fascists in the work in the woodwork. You know, like I worry about the people who are just kind of laying dormant to take this country back. Um,
Yeah, I'm
because
not saying you shouldn't. I think it's worth being concerned about.
I feel like there are more people than we think. You know, like I feel like there are people who are very keen, who are willing to cede ground in the short term, who are just biding their time, you know? Um, who are willing to take advantage. And you know, I fully grant that this is maybe because of my, like, very close, like, emotional distance from, like, the conversation I had yesterday with my dad. But, who are willing to wait a short term for a long term gain. You know?
They better act quickly because demographics are working against them.
God, I
If
hope
there's
I
anything to
hope
be
demographics are working faster against them than climate change is. I hope that's right.
that's a whole own goddamn thing. I think
Yeah.
that sometimes our perspective is a little bit colored by our age, though. I know you're older than me, but both millennials, I assume. And I really think that with the exception of, like, I guess maybe the Clinton, with the exception maybe of like the Clinton to Obama era, that like chunk from the 1990s to the early 10s,
Hmm.
I feel like we just got a brief reprieve from a lot of the cultural symptoms that are really evident with like the Trumpers right now, you know? Like what we're doing right now with the virus and all the anti-trans shit, whatever, this doesn't hold a candle to the Reagan administration and the AIDS epidemic. That wasn't just like, imagine not even saying anything. Like Trump
Oh yeah.
acknowledged COVID when there were like 2 cases in America, not talking about it till that many were dead. I mean, that's like a whole
I
other
mean,
thing.
like literally today, like a couple hours before you called, there was a news story that released from CBS about how the VA was like basically going back and saying like if you have been discharged based on your sexual orientation or your gender identity, like go take that up with your discharge review board, because we are going back on that, and if you have been discharged for those reasons, we will reinstitute your benefits. Which,
That's nice.
you know, that like in today's terms, where like there's so much bad news coming out, that's really good news. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
trans people are disproportionately part of the veteran community, because like a lot of people didn't see any way towards getting their hormone therapy or surgery that they needed other than through the military, right?
Then
And
they all got yeeted.
and then they got yeeted. And so, like, under the Trump administration, for those of you who don't know, like, if you got kicked out of the military because you were trans, you did not have access to trans healthcare. And the announcement today basically backtracks on that and gives you access to healthcare, which is amazing. You know, that's a lifesaver for a lot of trans people. Though
It goes like that with a lot of stuff too. By the way, I'm not trying to paint over legitimate concerns that you hold or anything.
Oh, yeah.
These are just things that I
No,
try
I
to
don't.
tell myself.
Yeah.
As a reminder perhaps of the relative privilege with which I exist in this era. You've also got Christ, you've got Klan rallies used to be a lot more open and a lot more common. The Klan right now is a joke.
Yeah.
There were no Klan rallies. If there was a Klan rally announced anywhere in the United States, it would be bombarded with
The most prominent clan rallies are in like Red Dead Redemption 2. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they would get annihilated. But they would have so many rocks pelting them that would just turn into like a bag of broken mush inside of their white cape. There's no way. I mean, we have Charlottesville, but Charlottesville was a failure for the alt-right, bemoaned by the entire community they have.
Yeah.
as a failure. So in many ways, I think, and I know it's like a horrible, frustrating uphill battle. I think if anything, what we're seeing is the abandonment of civility from the right, which feels like a more open return to some of the worst political elements they adopted back in the 1960s through the 80s. I don't know if that means that much in terms of the general backslide of the population, though. It might just be galvanizing we don't do, because the Democrats have never taken advantage of the radicalism within their base the way the Republicans have.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, the Republicans have basically abandoned any pretense at decency that they ever really held, right? Like, when we talk about the political base, there is this idea of the Democratic, like, far left, and that doesn't really exist in my experience. Like,
If only.
Again, the Democratic, like, far left is like the idea of what the left could be, rather than what the left actually is. And I wish we could reach what the left could be. That's like literally that's entirely my goal. Like that's why I started my YouTube channel, to like talk to people about these things, to talk to people about what we could be, to talk about the how we could further leftist goals, and how we could get democracy into workplaces and decommodify the existing power structure. And like that's what I really, really want. And if I can convince like 5% of my viewer base to do that, I will be very, very happy. So hopefully this is a transitional moment for the left, because I feel like there are really only like two ways to go. There's like the doomer left, which is like the Jimmy Dore left, sorry.
The Jimmy Dore.
the Jimmy Dore left, yeah. Which is ineffectual and angry and just not worth putting your time into. And then there's like the actual left, which is capable of actual change, which is capable of recognizing what the left is failing to do right now, and putting the energy and community in energy necessary into getting those things done. And of course, there's also like the third way. You know, the third way being like the traditional Democrat way, which doesn't really accomplish all that much and really throws people into just kind of this sea of chaos without really any ability to counteract.
I think I agree. I mean, what we really need to do is focus a little bit on the politics of imagination. That's the nice thing about the right. They don't let reality get in the way of their political plans.
Absolutely.
They can just say whatever they want, any old idea they have in their minds, and they will. And not only will they believe it's possible, they'll push for it. Sometimes they actually get it done. Banning trans people from the military. I mean, God Almighty! Everyone knew it was legally possible, you know. But nobody thought it was really going to happen. Then he just did it. There's lots of stuff that he did.
Yeah.
Illegally moving troops to the border during the midterms to counter the big caravan that never happened. There were so many things that he could do simply because he blinked and reality shuddered out of existence when his eyes were closed. And I think if we had that kind of dog-headed persistence when it came to things that actually made people's lives better, like building new housing or just general YIMBYism, Medicare for all, stuff like that. Even if we couldn't all snap our fingers and get it done, a lot of the stuff takes a lot of work to get done, like anything worthwhile, we could at least get closer. We could get people talking about it.
Yeah, honestly, like the main ethos of my channel has and will always be that we can do great things. The issue is manifesting the political will to do those things. Like, we can live in a world where healthcare is decommodified. We can live in a world where housing first solutions are embraced. We can live in a world where electricity is available to everybody, regardless of income, where water is available to everyone, regardless of income. And, like, it's not even like that would take, like, a massive reorganizing of society. Like, a lot of people tend to think, like, oh, that would just take massive public works projects. No, it really wouldn't. Like, the IRS put out a report, like, a handful of months ago, basically saying that, routinely, every year, the top 1.0% or 0.0 or 0.1%, something like that, underreport their income by about 20%. Which leads to a deficit of about $175 billion. With $175 billion under the current tax policy, if you actually enforced it, we would be able to, like, basically end hunger, end homelessness. We would be able to end pretty much every single major, like, basic lacking in the United States, and we just
And
choose not to.
the real long-term benefit too is the fact that oftentimes these costs um, are fractionalized by the benefits that you get from investing in parallel projects.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why Medicare for all or healthcare in general would be so expensive is because we're all so fucking unhealthy. A lot of
Yeah,
that is a product of the way our cities are built, where we drive everywhere all the time, and where we have very little regulation concerning the ability for food companies to put whatever the shit they want into chemicals that are by design addictive, you know. When
yeah,
you I mean when you get right down to it, the functional differences between like allowing cigarettes to be, you know, marketed to children and allowing other highly addictive and destructive chemicals that they just put into food to be marketed. I mean, there are good arguments you could make against maybe, you know, toning that down a bit.
yeah.
You get stuff like that done. You work all these projects together in parallel. You know, more and more people are getting medical care early on because it's affordable from the get-go, and you get preventative care rather than like post care. And then, wow, all of a sudden, all this stuff is way more affordable than it would have been before. It's actually kind of really doable now.
And honestly, that applies to almost every basic need in society, right? Like, it's hard to gather wealth. It's hard to kind of like basically make wealth your own if you don't have a stable place to live. It's hard to have a stable identity if you aren't even able to like get healthcare, because then you're basically just like moving on to like basic government welfare programs every like year or so, and like you're trying to keep things together, but you can't because the systems aren't made to work all together. And it's just like, if we had a Medicare for all style program, everyone would be able to get health care at less of a cost than what we get currently, right? If we had housing first solutions, we'd be able to get everybody a house or at least a home at basic cost that would be able to ensure that everyone is able to consolidate wealth that they were able to generate through their own labor, and that would be something that is beneficial. And like, another thing I've pointed out on my stream a lot is that, like, power plants, when it comes to power plants, you don't build like two power plants to compete against each other. Like, people just don't do that. So nationalize the power plants to make sure that everyone has this energy flowing into their apartments. And the same with the honestly with the ISPs. We want to have people to have access to the internet so that they can actually do labor online. We want people to be able to have access to electricity so they can do labor online. And while that isn't necessarily like a socialist perspective per se, that is something that is good for both capitalist and socialist laborers.
What a lot of
in my
what a
opinion.
lot of socialists don't seem to understand in their fastidious drive for the pursuit of, well, socialism, is that 95% of building a good lasting society has nothing to do with the means of production being owned by who or this or that. There are
Hmm.
some principles of civilization building that are just universal. You could be talking about a monarchy or a socialist state, and it's still going to be good to have walkable roads. That's not changing
True.
no matter what direction you headed. So the social democratic project, the one of building a good nation state, is universally enviable. I don't like the idea that some people have adopted that like you become less of a socialist if you ever discuss policy like propositions that are within the realm of current implementation, because a ton of good shit is currently within the realm of implementation. We
Oh
just,
yeah.
you know,
Like,
don't do it.
that's what I talk about on my channel. Like, I talk about like postal banking as a means of distributing like federal loans to democratic worker co-ops. You know, like that's one of the like bedrocks of my position, right? Like I want there to be a system in place that can't be undone, like the Consumer Protection Bureau, that basically encourages the production of democratic worker co-ops. And on top of that, I would like there to be a system that at the high top level, right? There to be a system whereby if somebody is interested in a government bailout, right? Like there's an economic collapse and you want a government bailout because you're a company that's too big to fail, right? I would love there to be a system whereby, okay, you get that government bailout, but it is contingent on you becoming a democratic worker co-op. I want there to be some system on the bottom and some system on the top that encourages the slow transition of our economy into a democratic worker co-op economy that is primarily fueled by these two systems. Like if we had this system in place, for example, we would have like Boeing as a democratic worker co-op. We would have most of our primary banks as a democratic worker co-op. We would have most of our car companies as democratic worker co-ops, on top of like whatever the bottom level introduction of these systems are, you know? That's primarily what I would like. I would like workers to democratically own their companies, both on a high level and at a small level, and over time have these two things overtake each other. That's kind of my position, I guess, when it comes to these things. Also,
I just want better. I just want better ISPs in this country. That's the only thing I shit about.
Do you mind if I go to the bathroom really quickly?
It's my socialism. Oh yeah, sure. Just give me your stream in the meantime. I won't get you banned.
Thank you very
Speaking
much.
of going to the bathroom, wasn't
right
Keffel shitting? Was gonna come back?
I need to pee so bad.
I'll never find out. Have I been turned over to the stream or have I been muted? Chat, I'm looking at you. Have I been given this power? You're not muted, you can in fact say it? Yeah. Oh, the temptation. Could do it, the power in my hands. You think I wouldn't? I wouldn't. How you doing? How you doing, guys? Or girls, and yeah. I just won the Isaac run, in case you were wondering what I'm up to. You know, playing video games. Being good at them. Better than you could ever imagine. To be honest. How many achievements does that leave me with? I have 610 out of 637 achievements, so 27 left to go. Woo! Woo! Well, Perrin, I don't know what you're trying to get from me, but you're not going to get it, okay? Do you know about the Isaac creators being super cringe? How so? You mean Edmund McMillan? Keffel's been drinking, so they're not coming. What is it with you people and drinking? It's Monday. What's the fucking occasion? I guess I already asked that. It's a long Monday? Maybe for you assholes. I've been playing video games. It's Friday somewhere in the world, right? I don't think so. I'm afraid. It's Tuesday for me. Oh, you're right, it is Tuesday now. It's Tuesday for me, too. Well, you know. Tuesday is still not really a drinking day by default. So it's definitely not a Friday anywhere. Oh god, give me a good Tainted Eden start. Ooh, Flight. That's pretty good. Really like that you're doing these chats with smaller creators now. Yeah, I just get bored at night, you know? I'm trying to do a little bit more community outreach. Hold on, Pandora's box gives different item drops depending on the floor you're on. On the first floor, it's 2 soul hearts, then 2 bombs, 2 keys. Boss room item. I'll hold on to it. Checked out DM's takes on Vaush's hunt. I haven't seen Demon Mama's response or whatever. She can, like, come on sometime. I want to, like, respond on stream and prompt that infinite recursive back and forth cycle that I despise so much. How'd you feel the first time you beat Hades? Pretty good, but it wasn't that hard the first time. The real difficulty was doing it at, like, Heat 16. I have 100% achievements in that game, too. Keffel's pretty fucked up over the Nazi joke. The drunk can't stop thinking it was... What Nazi joke? Whatever meme is happening, I don't know what the meme is. I'm sorry.
Alright, I have returned. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty okay.
What have you been up to tonight?
What the fuck is the chat going on about? I've just been playing video games. I woke up with a headache, so no streaming. I hate streaming with a headache. I know some people do it, but I don't have to be on my Sigma male grind set 24/7 anymore.
True.
Because I'm, you know, not growing... Yeah, not trying to, like, grow a partner or anything. So,
What have you been playing?
I'm playing Isaac. It's the only game worthy of my attention right now. Once I get all the achievements, I'm finally free. I've been playing this game nonstop for months.
I've been playing, Eastward.
Wait, hold on, wait. Apparently somebody in chat's fucking... mad? Hold on. You made a quick joke about Keffels maybe being a crypto-Nazi, but they don't think it was a joke. You have... Wait, hold on.
Wait.
Keffels has to be at least passingly familiar with me. There's no possible way Keffels was dumb enough to interpret that as anything more than a joke. I have faith. Oh, wait. Drunk? Okay, never mind. If you're drunk, I guess that's a whole other... Yeah, okay. Never mind.
Yeah,
Oh, Keffels,
no.
it was a meme.
Yeah, the Keffels community memes non-stop. I popped into their stream earlier today. They were talking about sausage, so...
I've been known to talk about that myself.
Yeah.
I'm so goddamn close to getting the 100% achievements that I can finally fucking play another video game. There are so many goddamn games that I want to play. Jesus Christ.
You should try Eastward. Eastward is kind of like Earthbound, but like really, 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 really pretty. It's really cool.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it came out a couple days ago. I've been
Oh,
looking.
okay, that's...
I was a game journalist for like 7 years. I've been looking forward to it for like 3 of those years. So, yeah.
The last Earthbound-esque game I played was Amori, which was quite a ride.
Yo, yeah.
Had fun with that one. Fun with big quotation marks around it, but yeah, a good time.
Cry, you mean?
Well, you know, it was an evocative game. I don't think there's any getting around that. I think most would agree.
True. Okay, what were we talking about? I'm sorry, I totally lost the stream topic due to peeing. I don't know. I'm relying on chat to remind me of what we were talking about.
That's fine. You're over fixating on the pauses in conversation because you're drunk. You're worried about being awkward, but you're forgetting that I'm playing a video game right now. There could be 30 seconds of dead silence between you and I, and it wouldn't affect my mental state in the slightest. There's nothing to worry about.
Well, thank you for alleviating my drunk anxiety. I appreciate it.
There you go. No problem. How is your evening going? Well, I suppose you already said with your dad and all that. I am sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's... I dealt with a lot of that yesterday, you know? Like, today, like, I came to stream... Like, I prepped for stream today. We talked about, like, Dragon Ball Z era animation related to, like, Dragon Ball Super animation, and we talked about how I'm hopeful for, like, the future of animation when it comes to, like, the Dragon Ball franchise. There was like
You know, I've never seen a single episode of anything from that franchise.
Oh, you know what? That's actually like kind of a godsend. That just means you have to watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Dragon Ball Z Abridged basically covers...
People keep recommending that, yeah.
It basically just covers everything you need to know about Dragon Ball without like the 300 hours of of necessary viewing, you know?
That art style really gets to me, though. I despise the Dragon Ball art style. I know that it's consistent and evocative, which are two of the most important things, you know, but oh god, I hate how it looks. It got so many people into working out, too, which is so funny to me, because all the dudes in there look like fucking 4 heads tall manlets with, like, synthoid muscles, but
they do look like brick houses.
Yeah, apparently that was what people wanted. Holy shit. Pigeon! Pigeon, learn to speak English. Pigeon. I love her.
Honestly, like the less painful way of experiencing Dragon Ball was through like the least painful version of that show is Dragon Ball Abridged. It basically like just condenses everything into like, I don't know, like maybe like 3-4 hours rather than like 100 hours.
I can do 3 to 4 hours. There's so much shit that I need to watch though. I still haven't seen the most recent Evangelion. I still haven't seen them.
I haven't watched any of Evangelion either. So like, you and I are in the same place. Show? Yeah, I haven't seen any of it.
Oh, okay. Wait, you're really missing out then. Wait, what's up?
Yeah, like.
Yeah. You gotta let her in the studio. Okay, she's dumb. Yeah, okay, sorry. Gotta take care of this screen account. Yeah, you have to watch Evangelion. It's very important that you do that.
Okay, so this is maybe telling on myself a little bit. I had a roommate in college, okay, who he really liked to not wear clothing. Okay, so he would wear shiny gold underpants. And he would also recommend me anime, and I just never watched the anime that he recommended, and the only anime he recommended was Neon Genesis Evangelion. So I've never watched the actual, like, the full anime. And I know that people talk about it as a classic. I've just never seen it, specifically because of my college roommate, which is probably not fair to the show.
Yeah, with respect to your trauma, it might just be that good that it unites the interest of even people who don't wear clothing except for gold underwear.
I'm like weirdly familiar with the tropes of that show because of how many people love it. But I probably need to like actually like grit down and watch it. I've never seen any of the show or the anime. The only thing I'm familiar with is the anime opening, which is admittedly one of the best anime openings of all time.
Oh yeah, an absolute bop. There's no getting around that. The yeah, the difficulty with Evangelion is that its fan base is hot, steaming diarrhea.
Which I mean, like everything is really these days.
I think it's worse the better the quality of the show, though. When I like watch The Bachelor, and I've seen The Bachelor, and I have my moments, you know, and then I go check in the community. Honest to God, the Bachelor community is more thoughtful than the actors on screen, or participants, not actors, whatever. The people who are in the community are far more thoughtful about the content than the people who are the show.
And that's,
but when it comes to Evangelion...
sorry, wait to interrupt you. I feel like reality TV has way less toxic of a community than the community around anime. Like, I've been watching anime for a long time. You go into the comment section of any anime episode, they'll be like, yo, that character who's 14 was super hot. It's just like, what are you talking
way
about?
More pedophiles in the anime community. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me is that in terms of the quality of the discourse that I expect, when I'm watching The Bachelor, I don't need to go and look at the community later and see deep, intensive theme like write-up analyses. But Evangelion is really, really, really good. And then I look at the community and what is it full of? It's full of pedophiles comparing how attractive two different 14-year-olds in skin-tight suits are. Like this to me, this is enormously more disappointing. Even if the community for Evangelion was better, the absolute contrast between the quality of the show and the community is heartbreaking every time I look at it. So if you can, grit your teeth and ignore all of that, I think that Evangelion is incredibly worth watching.
Honestly, that has been the single most like the single biggest roadblock between me and watching Evangelion was like looking at the community reactions to Evangelion. I'm an adult. I'm 30 years old. Like I like anime that reflects like an adult experience, and it is really difficult to get into an anime that is about like teenagers when like half of the community is talking about how fuckable like a 13 or 14 or 15 or 16-year-old is, like I don't want sorry, I'm not into that. I'm like, there's a reason why like one of my favorite animes is I forget what the name of it is right off the top of my head, but it's about like Love is Hard for an Otaku. That's one of my favorite anime series, and it's just about like, like a 30-something anime nerd lady who's like trying to seduce a 30-something anime nerd guy in like an office space, and it's just, I guess where I started getting interested in anime is different from where I am now, I guess. And that can be hard for some people to recognize, I guess.
The first anime I ever watched was Fooly Cooly, which is still my favorite, which is,
Ooh.
again, a show with a stark and despair-inducing contrast between the quality of the actual show and the quality of the people who also unfortunately like the show.
I've never seen the Fooly Cooly fandom. I don't want to know what that looks like. I genuinely don't want to know what that looks like.
It's pretty small these days. I mean, Fooly Cooly was made by the same people who did Evangelion right after doing Evangelion.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a meta commentary on what they had just done, which I think is awesome because I like Evangelion.
Is the remake is like the sequel?
Don't.
Because I know they put out a series. No, don't.
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
Don't.
All right, I won't. My first legit anime series was in college, and I was exposed to Trigun, which was a surprisingly wholesome anime, despite being like built on like the tropes of westerns. I remember
a lot, yeah.
crying when Wolfgang, was that his name? That whole arc went down.
Yes. I was in that
yeah.
I was actually in that anime.
Oh, really?
Hmm?
Where?
I was the protagonist.
Oh, okay. You were Vaush the Stampede. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. There we go. All right.
Actually, no relationship actually between this naming scheme and that. But yeah, I did like it. I actually watched Trigun significantly after starting this YouTube channel, only because people kept making the damn reference. I enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of wasted potential. There's some 90s jank in there, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Not the charming kind, but like the, oh god, like it got held back a little bit through it kind. But that's okay. Stuff happens.
Oh man, so much anime has felt that way to me. I like, not to make this like entirely like anime based, but like, have you ever seen the show The Irresponsible Captain Tyler?
No.
Oh, it is one of the funniest animes I've ever seen in my life, and it's about a like, basically imagine a sci-fi space opera anime, right? Like They just came out with one recently, but imagine like a sci-fi space opera, right? Mixed with like, you're all about this one ship, like Battlestar Galactica, but an anime. And then the captain of the main ship is just the biggest dumbass in the universe. It is one of my favorite anime of all time. It's kind of like a catch-22 of like military conflict. Like basically the entire crew of this ship slowly learning to trust this guy who has the dumbest ideas about space warfare, and it's really, really fun.
It reminds me a little bit by description of Space Dandy, which
Oh
you
yeah,
probably
no,
would.
it's very similar.
Oh, okay, nice, handled that, nice, nailed it.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of space operas as a genre ever since I played StarCraft 1 back when I was a kid, but unfortunately they're few and far between, and they're often not done very well.
Yeah, StarCraft. I don't know. I never played the third part, like the Wings of Liberty expansion.
So you never played any of StarCraft 2, or you never got to the
No,
third part of StarCraft 2?
I actually like played like a semi pro level of like StarCraft 2. But like I never played the expansion that came after Heart of the Swarm.
Gotcha. Yes,
Yeah.
Legacy of the Void.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
did you ever play StarCraft 1?
I did, but very, very, very briefly. Like when I started playing, it was right at the beginning of like when StarCraft 2 came out.
Oh, it felt so different. The
No, like
vibes were
I was super
so
into like
good back then.
the professional level of StarCraft. Like I watched pro level StarCraft 1, and then I got into pro StarCraft 2. Like that was
No,
kind of.
I'm talking about the story.
Oh, the
Um,
story. Yeah, I never experienced
though I
that. I was
followed the
just in the.
professional scene a lot as well.
I was just watching like the multiplayer.
Don't get me wrong, I followed the pro scene as well. It's just StarCraft 2, story-wise, I assume you played the campaign in StarCraft 2, because everyone did,
Yeah.
because it was so
Yeah.
well constructed. Um, it's all, individuals and, Jim Raynor getting drunk while Sweet Home Alabama plays and all that shit. But the man, the story for StarCraft 1 was so fucking inspirational to me as a kid. I really, really, really like space operas because there's something so inherently sad and tragic and, well, I guess operatic about like following these larger than life characters through the speeches they give before and after like battles that will be written in history textbooks printed for thousands of years afterwards, and you can just sort of imagine the scale of it all. I remember that in StarCraft 1, like I had the characters were so big and bombastic in a way that didn't carry over in 2. Because in StarCraft 2, when a character shows up, they're not just like a little faceplate and voice. They get a 3D model and they get
Yep.
cutscenes where you see them dramatically emote and everything. And it really just but in StarCraft 1, all you get is their little faceplate. It almost looks like you're pulling this out of a history textbook, like you're reading speeches recorded into holologs that were then like recorded for posterity, and you're just sort of watching it play out in retrospect. It makes it all a lot less theatric in the Marvel Hollywood AAA hold your hand through the whole experience kind of way, which I much 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 preferred.
Yeah,
And now you barely get any of that.
there was a sense of like almost it's hard to really recapture if like if StarCraft 3 came out tomorrow, right? Like it's really hard to recapture the amount of like impact that game had on the space, right? Like people were already playing it at like a professional level, like the original StarCraft. And then StarCraft 2 came out and it was just like an explosion of like new mechanics, new visuals, new everything, you know?
And it's totally dead now. They can't make a StarCraft 3. It would.
Oh, it would never.
I don't think
it would
they
never
could ever
take.
get. Yeah, they could never get the audience for it. It sucks, but RTSs are dead as dirt right now. There is just no audience for them. They're doing the Diablo 2 remaster, and I know Diablo 4 is probably going to come out in like 2023 or some shit.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, even WoW is dying. Fuck, what's even big right now? Is it all shooters?
No, it's
It's
pretty. It's like all shooters and all like the one shining beacon is like Final Fantasy 14. Like that. That's it.
nice try. I played that game. I couldn't get into it.
Look. The first initial campaign of Final Fantasy 14 is terrible. But like
Maybe it was the mechanics. I just
I look.
I used to play WoW at a pretty high level, the raids and stuff, and the mechanics and it's I don't know. It all felt so rote. I spent 20 hours playing the game. I was at max level with a warrior, you know, the
Mhm.
warrior profession, and I still had a 4-button rotation. Like, what is that about, you know?
The like Final Fantasy 14, like it's not like the, especially if you're talking about like the initial like arc, like like level 1 to 40, like sucks. It sucks. But Heaven's Word content is actually pretty interesting and fun. And then the next expansion also sucks, and then the like dark, whatever the expansion after that is good.
I don't see race. Well, I might check it out again sometime in the future. I can't make any promises. I had to stop playing WoW, totally, by the way, out of conscientious objection to the horrible working conditions of Blizzard, and not because I got bored of it.
100%. Not. Yeah, I agree. As someone who only got who got bored of World of Warcraft after level 8, I agree. I agree. 1 second, I'll be
Yeah,
right
we're
back.
very moral humans, us. Oh, anyone who's here from my Discord knows right now that I'm making an active effort to not bring up Warhammer 40k, and I want you all to know that I'm doing very well so far. Okay? I want my efforts to be recognized and celebrated. Like, speaking of space operas, you know?
Yeah, World of Warcraft, not my jam.
Well, that's okay. You know, it had its heyday. It had a very large, long heyday too.
Yeah,
So
what
we
was
can,
Wow.
what was that, like 12 years?
yeah. Well, I was playing the beta for the game back in like 2000, back in like 2005 or six, or I don't even remember, but I was young. Um,
Yo, that is super long, young. That's like before I graduated high school.
yeah, and they're still chugging. They're still out there chugging. I mean, I played the, I was playing no more than a few months ago. What's the current content? The Shadowlands? It's fine, I guess. It's just you can only do this stuff for so long before your head caves inside out.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a big MMO person, so I've never like even like Final Fantasy 14 is
You
like
got a raid.
I did. Thank you, Mafia Jinx. Wow, that is a lot of people. Wait, wow. Thank you so much, Mafia Jinx, for the raid. My name is Riverboat Jack. I'm a socialist. I talk about decommodification and democracy in the workplace. Those are the things I care about. And I also am a video game journalist. And I also am making a tabletop RPG. And I do a lot of different things. So please hit the follow button, I guess, if you want. I don't know. I'm not your mom, but I could be your mommy. Um,
I'm Vaush. I'm not a racist.
yeah, look, I spend half my stream time telling my stream that you're not a racist, Vosh.
How many people do you think are watching right now with negative preconceptions about me? As I can only talk about StarCraft to assuage the concerns so much. What do I have to talk? What indie video games do I have to say I like before I'll earn your trust?
Um, Afro Samurai.
That's a video game?
It's an anime and a video game.
Is it? Oh, I thought it was anime.
It's both.
Well, I've played basically the Afro Samurai video game, Fury.
Oh, that is a really good video game, though.
That's a very good video game.
I enjoyed it. It was basically like DDR, but with a sword.
Oh, I loved it. It was the closest I've ever felt to actually feeling like an anime warrior, which is all I want, by the way. Which, by the way, is all anyone wants at any given point in time, is
True.
just to feel like anime warrior, and I got to feel that for a little bit, you know.
True. Um. Yeah, I don't know. I've been playing. I on stream like earlier this week. I played this game called Erica, which is an FMV game, and I haven't played an FMV game since I was like a little kid. It was really weird. It was like unraveling a cult mystery, and it was really neat. I enjoyed it.
What is that? What is that something?
What? It's called Erica?
No, what is the genre you were referring to?
Oh, FMV. It stands for full motion video. So like basically
Oh, like those old Sony Sega CD ones,
yeah,
right?
like it's filmed as if it's a movie, right? But it's a
You
video
kill the
game.
guy, and then it cuts the MP4, and they're like, ah, and they fall down. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, except it was
Oh,
like done in like a more modern style, so like it was more like seamlessly combined. I don't know. It was cool.
oh, good. Improve on the formula. Just anything but shooters. God, please. Tell these people soy facing over Deathloop, but I just can't get hard for that shit anymore. We already had the best shooter. It was Doom Eternal, okay? And I'm not saying that, by the way, as some kind of like edgy, oh, my favorite is the best thing. I legitimately think they more or less hit the apex of the formula as it exists right now. They keep trying to iterate on shooters by like through theme, like, or with gimmicks, but they're just not doing it for me, you know? And you can't compensate for a lack of good gameplay ideas with quirky voice acting, okay? I know
True.
Deathloop has quirky voice acting. It all sounds very nice and lovely. I'm sure the voice actors are wonderful people, okay? But video games, especially shooter video games, I feel like you really have to nail in on what makes your game like mechanically distinct. And the indie game market does this all the time. You dig up through indie games, you will find unique games and genres being iterated on
Oh yeah.
constantly, all the time, with
Absolutely.
minimal budgets. And these AAA studios are grounded to what is safe. It is so boring sometimes.
No, I've actually been I 100% agree with you on when it comes to shooters, though like I've been burned out on that genre since before Doom Eternal, right? Like I don't know. I've been trying to build up the steam to like get invested in an indie game like at all. And it's just hard sometimes. I've been a video game journalist for like a decade, right? Like since like 2009. And it is hard to get into some indie games after that point just because like I don't know, there's a lot of really interesting things, but oftentimes the most interesting things are like on the fringes of indie, right? Like there's a game called If Found, and like that's just kind of like this chill indie adventure game about like trans folk. Or like Eastward, which is like kind of a revival of like Earthbound. And as far as like shooters are concerned, like I haven't seen like an interesting shooter in so long, you know? Um
Yeah.
I just I want what I want more than anything is interesting things.
The thi-
I want something that stimulates my brain.
The thing that really limits shooters is the fact that they're constrained by the realism of the premise. There are real life shooters. They're
Hmm.
called being soldiers. We know how shooting works in real life. Other genres aren't constrained that way. There's no real life equivalent of an RTS or a platformer. Those things only exist in fiction. But in a shooter, we know what happens when you hold up a gun and look through iron sights and press the trigger, and it's
Hmm.
always the same. Which means that I think that it's more difficult to iterate on the concept because we have such strong preconceptions about what a game should be when it's a shooter. When I think of an RTS or a strategy game, I don't really have like a default idea for what that looks like. But whenever I think of the default shooter, I can see 1,000 games overlaid on top of each other with the rifle being lifted up to look through iron sights. Because that's how it works in real life. Of course, that would be the default. But you have to
Yeah.
try so much harder to move past that. Doom did it in a trillion ways. Dusk did it, I think, by embracing the unrealism of the past, which is also one of my favorite shooters, and just refining that to its absolute peak. But even that's defined by limitation, because the only reason Dusk was able to do that was because they had another preset archetype of a shooter to fall back on,
Hmm.
the nostalgia that it had for the past. If it wasn't for shooters in the past being unrealistic in the way they were, would they have just dolled up realistic 1990s era shooters? I don't know. It just feels like a really tough space to move in.
Yeah, like when
Hope
it
I don't
comes to
sound pretentious.
no, no, no. When it comes to shooters, I genuinely don't know like how you proceed, right? Like it seems like a genre that is essentially encased and doesn't have all that more room to grow, right? Because like when you talk about shooters, like that's the thing you do. You shoot. When we're talking about other types of indie games, there's more room to grow. Like when you're talking about like management sims, you can talk about like I don't know, Papers, Please, or like there's like the new meme genre, which is like running a gas station or whatever.
Right,
Um,
right, yeah.
and
People love because they can make fan art of the characters and it's easy to write quirky dialogue. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like I don't know. There are interesting ways you can explore that, right? Like, I recently played a short hike, and a short hike
Love that game.
it made me cry. Like, and I was not expecting that. I was just like, sure, chat, I'll play a short hike, and then like by the end of the stream, I was just bawling like a baby. Like an hour later, like, a- and there's so much room to grow outside of that because the indie genre doesn't have like a specific mechanic it's built around the same way the shooter genre does, which is shooting, like um and
You know what I've always wanted to see?
yeah.
Sorry, wait, I'm sorry. I just completely interrupted you.
No,
I
go.
didn't mean to.
No, 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 go for it.
Okay. With regards to shooters, one thing that I've really wanted to see, this could be, I guess, first or third person. It doesn't really matter that much to me. Shooter in general. I've always wanted to see a really, really strong kinetic shooter that focused a lot on heavy, unrealistic acrobatics and kinetic gameplay. The idea that you would have like very varied enemies
Hmm.
and you could like vault and backflip and jump 20 feet in the air and slow mo and aim at like specific targets on their body and stuff, but all done with a really tremendous weight. The closest that I've felt to this in a long time, and I guess what I'm describing doesn't sound that unique or anything, but there's a image to it that I have in my head. The closest that I've felt to it in a long time was actually you're the redhead girl in the future past. Uh
The Control,
robot dinosaurs. Uh,
Dino Crisis.
no, the other robot dinosaurs. You're the redhead girl. You shoot bows. Uh, chat. Horizon Zero Dawn. Thank
Oh,
you.
there we go. There we go.
Horizon Zero Dawn had a pretty big focus on like pinpoint gameplay, which I liked. I mean, it was actually really hard to hit the robots often. Like their little weak points were really small and you had to
Hmm.
choose the right ammo type, and I like that. The problem with the game is that you're a slow plodding fucking meatbag. I mean,
Yeah.
you're acrobatic for a human, but like this game is screaming for high acrobatics. The most you can do is do a little dodge roll. No hate to the lady or whatever,
Yeah.
she's doing great. Damn near invincible by human standards, but the there's some game like that where you could vault and just really make a mockery of the enemies beneath you. It's something that I'd like to see in a 40K setting because I feel like the bombacity of the fight setting would sort of work really well with the over the top, larger than life combat that you'd be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like there haven't been a lot of video games that really encapsulate like the 40K setting specifically, like the scale necessary for that game.
I really
Um,
liked Battlefield Gothic Armada. Those games fucking slapped. Speaking of space operas, holy shit.
yeah. Um, I I guess like when you talk about that, like I'm like for first person games, I get it because there are so many games that constrain your movement, right? Like one of the biggest things that I felt like was kind of like the future of the first person shooter was movement. Like when Titanfall came out, and then Titanfall 2, I thought we were on like the edge of like the truly like mobile worthy shooter, like where you can just like you have so much mobility that you can just keep going, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that that's where we were going with the genre, and then it just doesn't seem like we've continued going that way, and that's kind of disappointing to me.
We
Um,
got Doom, but yeah, apart from that, we didn't get enough of it. Not by a long shot. We've got Doom. Warframe's pretty good. A Warframe, you're fucking cartwheeling all around the map, doing these little mission objectives. But Warframe's kind of its own thing, and I mean, we already know that Doom is good. In terms of the general adoption of it, I guess Call of Duty went into the future and got that backpack, the little jetpack thing, but it still feels so plotty, don't you
I, I
think?
I blame Jon Snow. Okay, Jon Snow came into Call of Duty and ruined our mobility options, and that's why we don't have whatever comes after next. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey brought down the genre with pedophiles. Okay, there we go. Boom, got him.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
That's what the chat likes. Okay, there we go.
They really got Kevin Spacey at the last point in time they could get Kevin Spacey, huh?
Yeah,
That was just a few years before, you know?
there was really no other time where you could hire Kevin Spacey for any other job.
He'll come back, by the way. You know he will. Hollywood doesn't give a fuck about victims. The nanosecond people start to forget.
Oh
Which will
yeah.
probably be in a few years. Even Shane Dawson's going to be coming back soon, isn't he?
Oh god. Did he? Okay, I never looked into this. Did he really fuck a cat?
He was super sus about it. I give it like 70-30 that
Oh.
he did, personally.
Oh gosh. Sorry, that's way too many percentage points.
It was pretty sussy.
Sussy
Pretty
Baka.
fucking sussy. Yeah, he's a fucking weird guy. I don't know. He's a super weird dude. The funny thing is, I actually think that like he got canceled for a lot of old shit that got dug up. I actually feel like his newer persona was just as damning. You know what I mean? He had this really creepy like fake nice guy thing that he was always trying to pull. That seems really transparent in retrospect, but I mean, he was a huge YouTuber and I'm not, so who am I to question?
I mean, you're pretty
Um,
big.
okay, yeah, but Shane Dawson was few larger, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, one way or another, he'll be back soon, probably. You know, he'll do a
I,
big apology video.
the way that's one thing I was never prepared for. It like the way that society recycles these people. That's one thing I never really like, even though I'm like 30 years old, right? Like I feel like I should have picked up on it by now, but like I was never really prepared for that. Like it feels like Shane Dawson should just be gone forever. You know, like yo, when there's a credible rumor that you fucked a cat, you should probably be like gone from society forever, you
Well,
know?
it wasn't a rumor. He said it on a podcast. He was, and I have no idea if he was like doing a bit or whatever, but he was speaking rather earnestly. He was talking about how like he slid his dick against a cat once or whatever, until he nutted. Which I mean, that's like fucking
Don't
cat.
do
But
that.
anyway, he
Cats
offered
don't
this
want that.
information totally uninvited. Well, we don't want that. Look, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Um, he offered this information like completely apropos, and everyone in the call was like horrified when he was saying it. They were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But he kept talking, you know. So I mean, I guess you could banty off everything as a joke, but like, holy shit, that's like the least jokey joke in the universe.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I guess I guess these people, there is a certain level where like these people just offer information about themselves that like I would never like suspect from like anybody, right? Like Lauren Southern going live the other day with like the head, like you're trying to revitalize your career. I get it. But revitalizing your career with like arguing that transgenderism is a mental illness. You know, like yo, no wonder you got banned. Are you surprised? Are you
it is like
surprised
the
at this?
standard Republican position on trans people, though, isn't it?
Oh no, it
I feel
100% is. I just thought that she was trying to like revitalize her career on Twitch. Like,
well, it was a temp ban. I mean, she'll be back, but yeah, it's uh definitely not the best optics move, I guess, to put that in your title. Um, I'm still offended, man. I got permaban the first time. For me, it took me a fucking year and a half to get rid of that. And she
and
gets a temp ban for that
and
shit. What the fuck?
and what did you get banned for? Did you just get banned for like saying like I don't know, support Palestine?
Oh, I didn't. That's, had I only phrased it that way, I might have lived to see the light of day. No, it was it was we were I was reading this article from an Israeli fascist, like
Oh dear.
fascist.
Oh
I mean, they were
dear.
talking about, the we shall pave our streets with the bones of the Palestinian people. Their blood will be used to grease the axles of our shit like that. I mean, not
Yeah.
really like that, but it might as well have been. It
Yeah.
was very, very, very militaristic. And anyway, I started talking in great detail and at length about the preferences I might have had for where our bombs should go, and cancel culture runs amok, etc., etc. And I catch me a permaban.
Damn.
Um,
Damn, they got you.
you know how these things go.
Yeah, the
But
Twitch
I'm
police.
reformed now, of course. Yeah, I'm reformed now, so nothing to worry about.
Of
I'm
course.
here now. We're
Yeah.
all good. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
of course
I disavow.
you have no problem with how Israel manages the Gaza Strip now, of course.
No, I'm completely fine. I've seen the light. I've had my come to Jesus moment, and honest to God, I don't think they're doing anything wrong over there. Thank you, Twitch. Um,
Uh, Fuck all of you at Twitch for that.
it's my language was definitely pretty spicy. There's no getting around that. Just man, the perma. It's mostly that Twitch has like no support system. I didn't even know why I was banned for a while. Like I didn't even like they don't fucking tell you sometimes, you know?
Yeah, no, like I don't know. I put in my application for Twitch partner like a month ago. I haven't heard anything back. Like maybe they'll accept me, maybe they won't. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not that fussed about it.
Well, I hope it works out. The longer you stream tonight, the better those odds are going to be, considering
True.
the elevated numbers.
True. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, I'm not streaming right now. It's not on me. That's on your fine people. Um,
Did you
and who was the person who rated?
that would be Mafia Jinx. Thank you so much.
Mafia Jinx. Yeah, Mafia Jinx.
Um did you
I've
want
never
to
spoken of it.
keep talking about like gender stuff? We talked a lot about interesting stuff on the panel. I messaged you just like in case you wanted to talk about that stuff because I don't know. I thought you had a
Yeah, I
lot of
can. I
really
should probably. I should
interesting
probably go to bed
ideas.
soon, but I've got time to talk about it for a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
What do you
Um,
What do you got in your mind?
I don't know. Just I thought it was really interesting the idea of like political utility mixed with like gender utility, which like I think those two ideas aren't necessarily mixed all that often, but I understand where you're coming from on that, and I just wanted
Yeah.
you to like elaborate a little bit, you know.
So I guess this is like my fear, right? I talked about it on stream. You know, I vary with how much I get canceled for it, but so right now,
I'm just to be clear, I'm not gonna cancel you for it. I
I
think
know,
you had some good I think you had good points, and I just wanted to talk about it more.
I am only jokingly defensive. My concern with some of the dogma that we have on the left, and I say it's dogma not because it's wrong, but because it's unexamined, um, is that self IDing for gender is something that we've all agreed is pretty cool and based, and I totally agree with that. But there are a lot of people on the left who kind of go by like the xenogender stuff, you know? And I, just to be clear, I don't think any of this is harmful. Nobody's getting hurt. I'll respect people's
Hmm.
pronouns. This is not an invalidity thing. It's more of a broader political strategy thing.
Yeah.
With the xenogender stuff, you know, you can go on gender.wiki or whatever, LGBTQ wiki, and find hundreds of genders that people have made up to mean this, that, or the other. I don't think any word is more legitimate a word than other words, but we make words in service of something, you know, how much benefit we get from these things.
Hmm.
And the concern that I have is that a lot of these genders essentially just describe identity. I mean, I made a joke about this on the panel, but there is literally a gamer gender. And there's not technically anything more absurd about gamer gender than like star gender.
Hmm.
Both of them just describe a sort of fixation or interest in something. And people spend a lot of time playing video games. So, I mean, video game gender, I don't know. Maybe you could make a strong argument for that. Um, my concern is that if we if what we're essentially doing is we're taking identities or character traits and we're turning them into gender identities,
Hmm.
and then we're saying that disrespecting those gender identities is tantamount to transphobia, which it would be based on our understanding of transphobia. What we're essentially doing is creating a catch-all system where anyone can defend the existence of any identity through labeling their opponents transphobic if they don't adhere to certain requirements of respect. So
Yeah.
this sounds really dumb, for example, and it sounds like a totally stupid bad faith 4chan argument.
Hmm.
But think about it like from the premises that are laid out. If a person wanted to go by Nazi gender, obviously this is bad faith. But just imagine it's 50 years in the future and somebody honest to God believes it. I don't know, some 16-year-old 8chan in 2071 believes that, you know?
Hmm.
And if they believe that, I mean, there's a whole host of identity based stuff surrounding Nazism historically. If they actually believe that and you made fun of them for that, is that transphobia?
Yeah.
Because right now, if you made fun of somebody for being star gender, that's transphobia. A lot of people on the left would agree with that. I just think it's a dangerous road rhetorically. It might be better to reserve the condemnation of transphobia for non-binary identities broadly rather than the xenogenders specifically, because you could fold any identity into a gender if you wanted to and just cause problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so how would you differentiate between like a xenogender and a non-binary gender?
I think I don't know if there's like a hard line you can really have because
Because
I
it
feel
does seem
like
very nebulous, right?
I feel like the closest you could get is probably the genders for which I would give that designation are ones which are in some way affiliated with roles and expectations concerning sex.
Hmm.
So I did some research on this, and even in cultures that had third genders or more than that, usually those genders still had something to do with sex. So oftentimes a third gender was basically just the non-binary gender,
Hmm.
or it described people who were assigned male at birth, not that they had that term back then, but you know,
Yeah.
now we would say that, and adopted a different set of social roles even though they had that sex. So there was a relationship to some kind of sexual attribute. In those respects, I think these are what we refer to as genders historically, not just identities of their own, if that
Okay.
makes any sense.
No, I see where you're going with this. So yeah, no, I totally understand that I guess I am just in the position of like, what do we do, right? When we get to, like, how do we know when we've gotten to a point where we can, I guess, embrace a wider gender abolition, right? Because I'm not opposed to that. I hope I didn't come across like that on the panel.
No, no,
Um,
not at all.
so like, how do we avoid getting, like, avoiding the question and arriving to the point where we're like, yes, star gender is the same as non-binary. Like,
I guess I would. I mean, my goal eventually would be for gender to kind of leave the lexicon, right? You know,
mhm.
for me, a lot of the xenogender stuff seems useful in exploring identity, but it seems like um, how do I put this? Wait,
Is it,
somebody's
it
chat saying Vaush is saying the slippery slope. This is literally not a slippery slope because everything that I'm describing right now fits within existing premises. The slippery slope would be if I'm saying these premises would lead to other premises.
mhm.
But with the premises we have right now, what I'm saying is deductively possible. Um, I guess I'd like gender to kind of leave our lexicon entirely. I like that people get
Mhm.
the ability to self-explore. I just wonder if doing it through xenogender is necessarily the most conducive way to do that if we're just
Yeah.
kind of subtly reaffirming the omnipresence of gender in our lives.
Well,
What
and
does it mean to be those things? I
yeah,
don't
like,
know, you know?
what does it mean to explore? Like, if you are a star gender, what does that tangibly mean for your life, other than you referring to yourself as star gender? You know, like, and I guess this is why, like, I largely say that I tend to think that this is something that's going to happen on a extremely long time scale, um, because there are people who are, like, you know, coming back into tune with their gender as like a two spirit person if you're Native American or something, you know,
Mhm.
um, and I like what that means might take a long time to reestablish before it can kind of fade away into the broader, just kind of degendered idea of identity. If that, am I making sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I mean, to answer the first question you said, honest to God, I think most xenogender people choose their gender in the same way that people like in the same way that people do like BuzzFeed quizzes. You know what I mean? I know people who identify by xenogenders, and I know that for a lot of it, it's that name sounds cool,
Do you
and I
really?
like this thing. So yeah, well, I mean, I've got a big community, so
Oh,
I
yeah,
try to
okay,
talk to
yeah.
people in it. By a lot of, I don't mean like dozens or whatever, but the vibe I get is that it's usually like just kind of a I wouldn't say it's flippant. It's just it's something which is sort of an aesthetic flourish. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Tons of stuff we do fits to that. I just I just worry that like using the transphobia bludgeon with all disagreements in that avenue might end up cheapening the term a little bit. Not because there's anything not trans about being xenogender, but rather because the micro specific differentiations between all the xenogenders can lead to bad faith or inaccurate invocations of transphobia, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
This is totally not like a problem with life right now. I
Yeah.
just want to be clear. This is not a thing that's like making the world worse at the moment. It's just a thing that I've thought about, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, sorry. I have applied exactly like 0.005% of my brain to dealing with, like, star gender folks. Like,
I'll respect it. I'll use your pronouns. I think there's absolute good in respecting this stuff, even if I'm not 100% aboard. I feel like a lot of people are so defensive of this stuff. They don't see the difference between what I'm saying and like sort of being a reactionary stodge. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
feel like there's such a huge gulf between that. It's just important to think about these things because our definitions of gender need to be consistent and defensible if if we want to defend them, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Like, it just seems like, something that if we were going to talk about like these topics, it seems to be, and I think this is the main difficulty, right? Like if we're going to talk about like star gender, right? Like and the importance of star gender, I think that is something that takes on like a very far-flung idea or conceptualization of what gender is, right? Because I think right now what star gender would be conceptualized as by the broader society would be like some kind of non-binary, right?
Yeah.
And if we're getting into like a point in time where your average person is able to distinguish what star gender is from like non-binary, I think that would be getting closer to the point where people are um, relatively, I guess, where the importance of gender is diminishing across the broader whole. Like that would be my goal. Like I don't want to erase gender from people who like really really care about it. What I would like is an equalization, a decolonialization of gender, and then once we have decolonized gender, a like overall diminishing of that importance so that we don't have these gender roles that are so constrictive for people and that I believe generally cause some degree of uh, pain or prescriptivism, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
We just have to be careful because it is possible to exaggerate the social importance of a trend or of a system or of an idea in an attempt to delegitimize or expand upon it, you know? So
Yeah.
the one thing that I would consider like worst case scenario is if like because right now everyone puts pronouns in bio, right? I think
Mhm.
that's nice. It legitimizes trans people. It's cool, you know. But one thing that I would hate is if in the future, like say 80 years down the line, gender becomes such an all-encompassing topic, specifically because the increased social attention to the subject leads to that much more discourse, which leads to more people centering those ideas, which leads to more people considering them like an essential component of their identity, which is the opposite of what I would want. I want people to consider gender a relatively non-substantial part of their identity.
Mhm.
So, and you can roll down that like road farther and farther and farther because I mean, most people aren't gender abolitionists, you know.
Yeah.
If I wasn't a gender abolitionist, I'd probably be with the I guess the default position here. Fucking go with it. But to me, like the closer we get towards some kind of beautiful ideal where demographic characteristics are the last things that people like think about and announce about themselves, the happier that I'll be. Obviously, this is only a sort of long-term social goal, not like right now we need to rip gender out of the hands of people who care about it because that'd be kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I,
And
I
I
like being a guy after all, you know.
and I think a lot of people hear like what we're talking about right now as if we want to rip those identities out of people, especially like trans folks who have worked really, really hard to get the identities they have today. And like that's not what I want, and I don't think that's what you want either. But it can be really easy to misconstrue um, what we're talking about in that way, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are really defensive about this. Like,
Yeah.
not trying to debate any people in your chat right now, but there are a lot of people who are clearly uncomfortable with any of this stuff even being talked about. This is what I mean by dogma. It really bothers me. If you have an idea, if you believe in something, you should be able to defend it from scrutiny. What I'm engaging in is far from intensive scrutiny, by the way. This is like affirmative, I'm on board, I agree with non-binary identities, gender is a social construct, self-ID is valid scrutiny. This is the kind of scrutiny that our current gender paradigm is ever going to get.
Hmm.
There are some people who will consider any scrutiny whatsoever to be like a threat to people, which I disagree. I think a lack of scrutiny can be a tremendous threat because it means it's difficult for us to defend our ideas in the future. Not
Yeah.
to get all defensive or anything like that. It's
No,
just
no,
something that
no.
I've
I
noticed.
I mean like part of having this conversation in the first place is recognizing how far outside the bounds of like where our, I guess, primary or where our normal, quote unquote, conversation bounds usually lie. And that's what I find so fascinating about the conversation, is being able to talk about, where we are here, like with this conversation versus where we are as society. And I think almost always when we talk about academia is way ahead of where society tends to be. And I don't know. I don't know where Twitch chat tends to lie between those two extremes. I probably not closer to academia, but
Okay, I won't let I'm not gonna let my feelings get hurt or anything like that. It's okay to uh, be conscious of this stuff, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I
yeah, and yeah,
By the way, I don't think I could hurt your feelings, so like I'm I'm not super worried about that. I'm just trying to like parse it for chat, you know.
that could be fragile. You don't know. I guess
True.
I think
Or
with regards to race as well, you know,
pat
like
the Vaush on
so,
the pipa.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I think about it with race as well a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't like. I'm a racial abolitionist as well. I would
Hmm.
love it if this. I would love it if like the difference between a black and a white person was something that people recognized only through purely phenotypical characteristics that they had to describe individually because they had no concept of the whole.
Right.
What's the difference between a black and a white person? Well, one of them has different colored skin. If it could be reduced to that, I would be very delighted. But you can't rip race away from people right now. I love my mayo. I need to be a white boy. That's how I am. That's how I was born. That's how I'll live.
Yeah.
But if
I
people get really, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was just gonna say I tried to bring that up the other day, and I was accused of being like a racial, like a race. I forget what the term was, but I basically pointing out just to chat that race is a social construct, or I was called a transracialist for pointing out that race is a social construct and that it has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Like, race is a social construct. It doesn't operate the same way that gender does, but both are social constructs the same way that like a nation state is a social construct, but it doesn't operate the
Yeah.
same way gender or race does.
Sorry, one second. I'm getting triggered by somebody in chat. Hold on. Wait.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna
Gay people shouldn't get married because then people would end up marrying their dog. It's sadly how I'm hearing Vosh's takes, but I'm an Ancom. What do I know? You know nothing. Okay, please.
I'm gonna go pee
You
real
have to
quick.
think. You have to think about
Leave.
this logically. Okay, try to be very nice. Okay, so I'm not making a slippery slope argument. A slippery slope argument is predicated on saying that premises will worsen with time. Okay, like because this, then later X. Like something has to change. A slope means a change in the elevation. What I'm saying right now is that if anyone can create a xenogender, and a xenogender is created around an identity, and you can do it around any identity, and to disrespect that is transphobia, then everything that I've said so far is true deductively as a product of existing premises. The idea that allowing for gay marriage would allow for people marrying dogs requires a ton of new premises. That this is a slippery slope argument because you have to introduce the idea of new things getting added or taken away in order to arrive at that. You have to change elevation, you know? Like, because you could easily make that argument from the opposite side, you know? Like, so I believe that consenting adults should get married to who they want. A dog's not a consenting adult, so they can't get married. It's like, oh, okay, accounted for. But that's not the case with the whole gender thing. I'm really not trying to shit on like neo identities here or anything like that. I just think we should be able to talk about it. Uh, okay, now I'm going to be slightly mean. I have no idea how on earth you guys participate in broader discourse when this is your standard for like interlocution, you know? Like, if what I'm doing right now is like soft bigotry, I don't know what the average American must be doing because, you know what I mean? Like, I just wonder, you know? Because I feel like where I'm at right now is like 10 levels above the average American talking about any of this stuff. So, do you just not talk to people or? I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit mean. I just I don't know how you do that. Oh God. That's okay. We're all gonna make it, friends. Oh hey Mafia Jinx, I didn't see that you were in chat. I'm doing contentious. Now, I don't want to be like mean to people. I know that a lot of people are suspicious of me. Oh, hold on.
You're right. I am super sus of you.
Ah, shit. I tried to time that so you didn't get back in time to hear that. Okay, fuck. Okay, look, the point that I was trying to say was about race. Okay?
Yeah.
So like so I don't have a problem with like black people being like, "Hello, I am black." It happens all the time. Great. Phenomenal, you know?
Yeah.
No problem at all with that. Phenomenal stuff. 10 out of 10, okay? However, imagine a world where everyone puts their race in like their bio at all times, and then people start creating like new races. Because races are social constructs after all, ones we use out of human utility to self-identify and to form social bounds, both positive and negative. It's not at all unlikely that people could do that, given the social impetus, you know? So if that took place, like, I feel like you could get in some really weird directions there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people calling each other racist because there are different, like, subgroups. And my desire would be to forget all of this and just move past it. But sometimes fragmenting a system can be like the worst way of meaningfully challenging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it would be somewhat problematic if people started identifying as like the antediluvian race, if like they were fundamentalist Christians and like they believed in like, the flood that destroyed all the other races, and then they were like, yeah, we're the antediluvian race, we just happen to all be white. Don't worry.
You could get real wacky with it,
Yeah.
is all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, but again, most of the xenogender stuff is being done by like pretty young people just looking to explore their identities. And even
Yeah.
if they're not young, I mean, I really don't care. It's just
Even older people need to explore their identities too. True.
yeah. I recently had an argument with a person who was defending the whole super straight thing. You know,
Oh gosh.
um, the problem is, unfortunately, the super straight people have a lot of really good arguments when it comes to the formation of that as a sexuality if you abandon the utility argument. My argument against the whole super straight thing was, well, it's transphobic, which it is.
Hmm.
And they were like, okay, so where in the definition of sexuality does it say that it has to be politically correct? When was that ever established? And it's true. That isn't established anywhere. So if you abandon the utility argument, you can make a very compelling argument for super straight as a sexuality.
Oh,
I think the utility is the important thing there, of course.
and for those of you who don't know what super straight is,
All
super
right.
straight is basically just people who are like, I'm so straight, I wouldn't date a trans person. That's basically it.
It was a very silly debate altogether. I'm encompassing only a teeny tiny bit of how fucking stupid that conversation was. Oh god.
Yeah, no, like it does. Oh, I mean, if you really want to dig down to it, right? Like, basically any decision multiplies the amount of like possible conversations you're gonna have, right? Like about whether it's trans or race or humans are really good at building social constructs to have problems with.
Yeah. Yeah, we can create offense for ourselves too, right?
Mhm.
Like the samurai, you know?
Yep.
Like sometimes the adoption of social standards, even if they mean a lot to people, I mean, I don't think life was made any better for anyone with the whole samurai honor death code suicide thing. I feel like that probably sucked altogether,
I
you
don't
know?
know. I
But they
watched I watched the film 47 Ronin with Keanu Reeves. It seemed like he was having a pretty good time right up until the finale, where he and
well, there you
47 other
go.
people committed suicide.
The historians have spoken. Um, well, I'm glad you get where I'm coming from. I had quite the argument with my community over this stuff, which was frustrating because I don't really have any hardline arguments for it either. It's just difficult to think about,
I
especially because I mean, to get even more granular, right? With with the super straight thing. This
Mhm.
is just my opinion. I don't think that I don't think that genital preferences are inherently transphobic.
Mhm.
Some people just aren't going to be that into a vagina or a penis, and
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Same.
There are shitty ways to go about it. So it is technically possible to create a sexuality which conforms to like, I mean, you could call it maybe androphilic or gynophilic or whatever, or you could throw like genital preferences in there, and you could have essentially a non-transphobic version of super straight. That where if you laid out the premises to it, you'd go like, oh, I guess there's nothing inherently transphobic about that, but it basically excludes like just trans people, you
Yeah,
know?
I mean,
And
like
if you did,
we could
is
already.
that bad?
I mean,
Is that
we
wrong?
could have that just with like the premises you laid out, right? Like, um, I mean, if you're just into penis, like you can just say like I'm only into people with penises, but like, like there are trans and cis people with penises, you know, like who look any kind of way you would like. Um, or I'm only into people with vaginas, and there are people who look like any kind of way you'd like. You know, the transphobic way of like defining it specifically leaves out trans people, and like that's a big issue. You can have genital preference. I don't think any trans person is against other people having genital preferences. Um,
Very few that I've met are. I know there are some like holdouts on that, but almost every trans person I've ever talked to is understand because like you know it seems fairly like penis and vagina is pretty different. I don't
yeah,
fucking mind, but some other people might, and you know
same.
that's
Yeah,
and you can't bully people into being attracted to that stuff. You're never gonna convince. Like what's the counter argument, right? Like oh I'm into like women, trans women are okay. I guess I just don't like dick, and you're like you should like dick. What are they gonna say like? Okay.
just
It's just one of those
you
live
know
and let live things.
you just need to try it, okay? Just try some dick, and then you'll change your mind. Like,
Oh, I mean, you know, maybe they could, you know,
well,
but
maybe they could, but that leads you down some pretty bad paths, right? Like, I'm
yeah,
gonna.
depending on how hard you push that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna convince you that you're really bisexual. No, no, please don't do that. Don't
Yes,
do that.
the James Charles
Oh
meme.
gosh. Oh no no
Uh,
no 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 no.
oh, no, 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 no.
Oh
Um,
gosh, like I don't know. It's just I think ultimately what it comes down to when we talk about like the issue of like gender abolition is very similar to like that. I think it's the Noam Chomsky quote of like people are better able to imagine like the end of the world than imagine the end of capitalism. I think that's the same thing but with like gender abolition. You know, people are better able to imagine the end of the world with like traditional gender roles than they are like imagining the end of traditional gender roles.
yeah. We'll get there eventually, though. I
Hopefully.
feel like it becomes less and less important to people's identities all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, it used to be like, you know, like guys can wear piercings, whatever. The existence of trans people fucking obliterates the standard conception of, you know, gender and sex being the same thing or of them being like highly essentialist properties. Just on their own, trans people are like the fucking elite shock troopers against gender essentialism, which is wonderful. You know,
Honestly, that's what I was trying to kind of get to on our panel. Like, the decoupling of sex and gender is such an essential step that like a lot of trans people are breaking just by virtue of like existing. Um, that I'm hopeful that we can get to like a gender abolition aside like society, in a realistic fashion rather than like like oh maybe in 2,000 years we'll be able to get there, like
we'll
we're
probably
already
be
doing it.
we'll probably be somewhere close to it within our lifetimes. And by close, I mean like I feel like by the time I'm old, assuming nothing fucking terrible happens between now and then with regards to geopolitics,
that that
which it
that
probably will,
that's pretty
pro-
that's pretty generous.
probably might. Um, but excluding that, maybe. I feel like it's decently likely gender neutral like child raisings will be more and more common. They will might like end up being uh, if one of, if not the most used like pronouns, you know, or it might like get closer and closer to he and she.
Yeah.
We'll just place less emphasis on this stuff, at least in rural areas. We'll probably see at least some of that. I think that'll be cool.
And I mean, that's also part of what I was trying to get at too, right? Like, on the panel anyway. Like, they is just so much easier to say than like he or she. Like, the utility of they is just so much greater. Than
Yeah, I want more pronouns, but why the fuck are they linked to gender? Why don't we have pronouns that are linked to like degree of familiarity or like
that'd be
level of
so
respect?
cool.
That would be way the fuck better, infinitely better than what we have right now. Where when you use a pronoun, it's you're like giving real information rather than like I guess what genitals they have for because that's I mean for historically that's what it meant, you know.
I look. I just want to dunk on my my enemies in a Call of Duty lobby, right? Like, or a Fortnite lobby. That's what the kids are playing, right? Fortnite.
These days, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Be able to look, kids. You can dunk more easily on your opponents and your hated enemies in a Fortnite lobby. Just use this simple pronoun. You know.
Isn't that the point of I'm responding to chat. Isn't that the point of neopronouns? No, neopronouns are just like personalized to the person. They don't convey any like universally recognized interpersonal meaning.
Oh,
Unless people are constructing that, but if that's the case, I've heard nothing of it.
you know, I was gonna bring this up. Someone on Twitter pointed out that some languages are specifically like constructed to not have like generalized pronouns. Like some languages only have like he she pronouns. Like, does that change kind of like the neo pronoun dynamic?
They only have what pronouns?
Like he she pronouns.
Um, well, I'm a filthy colonizer, so I say fuck them. We're gonna colonize them and give them gender neutral pronouns next time.
Yeah, we'll colonize Germany and Italy in Italy.
True.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Take
yeah.
the peninsula back.
There we go.
Or
Take
fucking reverse crusade them.
take Europe's boot.
Absolutely. Yeah, the I don't know. I think that we probably should. A lot of people left needlessly agonize over this too. They're like, "Well, what about when minority groups do this thing culturally that we don't like?" Like, I don't fucking know. We just disagree with it still? I feel like a lot of people get really weird about that, you know?
Yeah.
So strange.
And this is something similar to what I brought up on the panel. Like, this is just why I think it's gonna take longer for like a gender abolition plus decolonial movement, you know? Because I feel like the decolonial movement, at least for a time, will be opposed to gender abolition. Which doesn't necessarily mean that gender abolition is bad or that decolonialism is bad, just that, like, because of the timelines of both, they're going to be difficult to do at the same time, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if like people on the left would ever be like, we need to slow down on the LGBT integration because the black community is still like kind of homophobic. I wonder, probably not. I feel like it's very arbitrary lines on these sometimes, but I don't know. At this point I'm shit stirring. A lot of people on the left don't know that, by the way. I feel like every time,
100%.
every time I like talk about that, people in my chat would be like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" And like, no, actually, it's mostly white people who are on board with most of the LGBT stuff, you know?
Yeah, no,
It's not,
I've had I do open call-ins sometimes, and I've had some notable call-ins from the African American community that are pretty anti-LGBT, despite the fact that like I'm very LGBT, you know.
yeah.
But I do think that a lot of I think a lot of these I think a lot of people from all communities are very curious about LGBT folks. Like, I think a lot of this is built on the foundation of unfamiliarity. You know, like part of it is just making people familiar with the idea that like pansexual or gay people or like trans people even exist, because a lot of people are familiar with that in like broad strokes, but not necessarily so much in like their personal circles. Like they conceptually, I know that like trans people exist out there in the world. They just don't know that they don't know
It's way
anybody who's trans.
it's way easier to be accepting of this stuff too when you know like trans people in real life, for example, or gay people or
Oh yeah.
whatever. I've never been like a I guess a politically bigoted. I've never like thought, oh yes, I am against this minority group, you know. Um, but I do know that before I actually like met any trans people, it was always kind of like this abstract feeling
Hmm.
with them. You know what I mean? Like, well, I guess I'm not opposed to them existing. Yeah. But then when you meet trans people, they're just fucking dumb and awkward like every other person. So
True.
it's like, okay. And then instantly, like the concept is completely normalized. Huge correlation between familiarity with a minority group and acceptance of a minority group. Hold on one second. What's up? Oh yeah, then I'm sure it's soon. Then,
Um, yeah, like no, like coming at this as like a trans person, I came from like a very fundamentalist Christian, like conservative background. So like I've been like through the gamut of like thinking about like trans people, black people, gay people, cis people. Like I've been through all of that. So like I can 100% understand. Um and yeah, no, Lady Raincloud. I don't think Vaush insinuated that black people are more bigoted than white people. It's just that there are certain stereotypes within black communities that do
oh, they
lead
are.
there that do lead.
According to polling,
Yeah.
the white people in America have the highest acceptance of pretty much every LGBTQ thing. A
Hmm.
lot of that has to do with affluence, and a lot of that has to do with like in-group stuff. It's not
Yeah,
inherent or anything, but
yeah.
yeah, in terms of
I
like
think
demographic.
I think a lot of it has to do with colonialization. You see this a lot in a lot of like African countries, for example. Um, a lot of the values of the colonizers get very heavily imprinted on the colonized. You know.
A lot of
Um,
black people are in the South too.
yeah.
That's not the best for for any kind of LGBT acceptance, you know?
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, like when you look at the polling data, this does back up, right? Like, I don't and again to reiterate, I don't think like black people are inherently more transphobic or uh, biphobic or NB-phobic or homophobic than anyone else. It's just that the circumstances under which a lot of them grew up were informed by the colonizer like ethos, which
Yeah.
is all of those things, you know.
From what I read, a lot of it also has to do with the traits that you selectively adopt in order to affirm social acceptance. So, especially back in the 1950s and shit, if you're black, you're already starting out with like negative 50 social cred points on account of everyone being so goddamn racist, you know? So, how do you affirm that you're worthy of the respect of your racist peers? Well, you're virulently patriotic. You're extremely pro-family, which black and Hispanic people are too, like way more than white people are here in America. Very pro-family values, and you tend to be fairly anti-LGBT, and it's a way of kind of buying off like sort of social acceptance credits from largely stigmatized society. It's why so many black and brown people ended up signing up to fight in World War II, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you know,
Well, and
they knew the country hated them, but they wanted social acceptance.
well,
Who can
and
blame them?
real Dan Cody makes a good point. Black people are more like statistically more likely to be Christian and Protestant, and those two ideologies tend to lead towards more, you know, or less acceptance of like trans and gay folks, you know.
Which they adopted also in large part because heavy religiosity was one of the few ways that they could build cultural solidarity back in the Jim Crow era, you know?
Yeah,
Like they didn't know how to read or write after slavery ended, but they could sing hymns. It was one of the sort of
only
things
acceptable
that,
ways.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So there are always reasons for this stuff, you know. It's not
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely understand how some people in chat are like bristling at this, but like as somebody who came from like a very evangelical background, like there was a very long part of my life where I was like, I don't know about those trans and gay people, you know? And it is one of those things that I think a lot of people grow up in and don't necessarily question unless they encounter people who are different from them. Right? And there are a lot of really insular homophobic communities, unfortunately.
Yeah. Insularity is where homophobia breeds mostly. Once you get into the cities, that stuff gets lessened massively.
Yeah. Rocky Horror is fun, but uh-oh. Yeah.
I've never actually seen Rocky Horror. Does that make me less or more transphobic?
Honestly, I don't know that Rocky Horror has any actual trans people in it, so I'm not sure.
No, but like implication, right? I mean,
I've
what would you call it? Coding?
If it makes you feel better, I've never seen Rocky Horror either. All right.
Oh, nice. We're both more or less transphobic then.
It's true. I hate all trans people. This is true.
Oh god.
Oh no, I'm gonna get canceled tomorrow.
Oh, you're
Chat, you know I'm joking, right? You know I'm joking.
They don't know. They're confused. They thought you were serious.
Rocky Horror is super trans. Is it? Or does it star a transvestite?
Rocky Horror always seemed to me like one of those things that in retrospect is probably pretty problematic, but at the time was maybe like the best representation
oh yeah,
the community had.
At the time, absolutely.
Yeah.
That being said, I've never felt comfortable going to like a showing of Rocky Horror just because like the showings of Rocky Horror have so much like importance attached to them. Like people.
Yeah, it's like a big crowd thing. Yeah, they all like
yeah.
fucking dance and sing, right?
Yeah, and it's just kind of like I like watching movies quietly because I'm a big nerd.
Yeah, I'm not the most social guy myself. I'd probably go one day just as a, just to see what the fuck the big deal's been about, you know?
I had a baby heart attack? Wait, what does that mean?
Maybe when you said you were transphobic?
Oh yeah. No, I'm super transphobic. I'm not super straight, I'm super gay, okay?
I'm so fucking close to winning this. Holy shit. Oh my god, why does it have to be so hard?
Do it. If you don't do it, you're homophobic, okay?
Gotcha. To anyone in chat who knows, it's tainted tainted Eden, against the beast. Tainted Eden is such a tainted Eden. Every time you take any damage at all, your entire build gets re-rolled.
I'm so far behind the current Binding of Isaac paradigm because I played that game for like 700 hours when it first came out, and I haven't played any of the expansions.
That's okay. I forgive you. Oh, wait, I think I got it. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Mason. There we go. Nice. TM trainer unlocked. Hope I never find it.
Fuck yeah.
Ooh.
Good job. I'm proud of you. We're all proud of you.
Right. Okay, only 26 more achievements to go. All right, with that, I should probably go to bed soon. I've got 2 minutes. We've talked for a surprisingly long time. How you doing? How you feeling? I'm
feeling great. I've sobered up a little bit. I drank this entire water bottle, so I'm feeling pretty good. How are you feeling? You just bested a beast of a time in a video game.
Pretty good. My headache mostly went away while talking, which is good.
Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't increase your headache.
No, as long as I'm focused, my headache tends to go away. The difficulty is being so focused I forget about the headache. If I can forget that I have the headache, then I lose the headache. It's always been as simple as that. It's the most infuriating thing in the world, because forcing yourself to forget something is the most difficult thing to do when you really want it to go away.
True.
Oh god.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I got a burrito to eat whenever I feel like finishing stream. I'm golden.
Hold on 1 second.
Holding.
I'm looking at my own stream discussion Discord. Hey, Killjoy 40K. I see you. I honestly, Vaush's takes on trans issues have been a point of weakness for him pretty consistently. I was fucking
I
debating trans issues with neo-Nazis when you were still in diapers.
I'm a
Killjoy
trans
42.
issue. I'm a trans issue, Killjoy. What the fuck are you
True.
talking about?
As you think you can hide from me just because you're on a different website and a different chat? You think any of you can escape my gaze? You're getting banned. That's not true. I won't ban you.
You can't
That'd be a bit mean.
you can't escape the gaze.
I appreciate you putting up the time for a conversation.
Of course.
I hope you've had a pleasant distraction from whatever negative is taking place in your life. Like you're getting rid of your own headache, so to speak.
Indeed.
I hope you have a wonderful evening.
I hope you have a great sleep, because I feel you're probably going to sleep.
It's sleepy time, yes.
Yeah. You get good sleep, and it was great talking to you. I'd love to talk to you literally anytime.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be a little bit more social, because I don't stream every night, so maybe I'll pop in from time to time.
Yeah.
I hadn't even followed you before. I knew you existed. I don't even follow the people that I watch, so I'm trying to work on that. So I have everyone on my followed channels list so I can actually see instead of just guessing randomly at their presence.
I mean, it's okay.
Have a wonderful night.
The first time you interacted with me, you referred to me as the unadulterated caucasity. I feel like I live up to the name.
Yeah, you might actually be paler than me. And is that natural red hair?
It is not. I emphasize the natural redness of my hair. But it's pretty close. Like, this is pretty close to my natural color.
Right. Well, I'll let it slide. It's
look,
shade of red that looks like natural anyway.
I'm cosplaying as a Hibernian, okay?
Have a good night.
You get good sleep. Bye.
Bye.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.